So I remember when Google News first launched, and everybody was trying to check it out. Is Google going to kill the newspaper industry? And if you scrolled way down to the very bottom of the page, there was this little note there, and it said, no editors were harmed in the making of this news. The idea being that you could automate things, and people would choose that thing themselves. The idea that editors making decisions for you might not be as good as you being able to find it. I'm not sure that I agree with that at all. I actually don't agree with that. I make a living curating news for people. But it is a way of thinking about journalism, at least making access to it. The problem, of course, is that the more information that you try to put together, the more incoherent it becomes, just by the force of being able to search through so much stuff. So it's in how you put it together that makes it interesting, I believe. So the last of our first group of 5 is probably not journalism as we traditionally define it. It's actually an art museum. And as arts coverage disappears from the traditional press, many cultural institutions are bypassing journalists and speaking directly to their communities. Traditionally, arts journalists have been the kind of mediating force, the connectors between artists and audience, getting the word out, setting context, and evaluating quality. Seeing traditional journalism slip away, those arts organizations are taking things into their own hands and wondering, well, can we just bypass the journalists and do this directly? The Indianapolis Museum is one of the most forward-thinking in this regard, and rethinking its relationship between itself and its community. And so they've got 2 kind of interesting projects that are an expression of that idea. Art Babel articulates the museum's aesthetic in partnership with other producers. And it makes clear that the galleries, so they've gone from this idea that you curate a gallery, that's our product. They're actually moving towards, they're curating an aesthetic. They're selling an aesthetic rather than a gallery show. The show is an incremental expression of that aesthetic. And so if you want to know something about an artist and it's somebody that they feel is in their realm, this is a great way to go and check out video, check out almost anything about that person. So they're really selling the idea of the art. The other thing that they decided to do is to make all of the workings of the museum itself, its inner soul, available to the community. So you could tell, they tell you how much the endowment is, how much electricity they burn, everything about them, and they release it to the community. So is that kind of information useful to people? Who's going to use it? This is the kind of stuff that journalists ask for, and they're just giving it away to everybody. It's a kind of risky thing to do to a community because you don't know how that community is going to use it. So Max Anderson, who's the director of the museum, and before that was director of the Whitney Museum, is one of the thinkers behind developing the Indianapolis Museum's response to the digital world.